I'm an earthworm woman. In the mornings, I fill my tanks by breathing the energy of the sea and tasting the power of the sun penetrating my skin. There's an air of no care, which comes with age, and I hold my head up proudly, liking who I've become. I'm not afraid of smells, or dirt, or to walk barefoot across the stones. Sometimes I wade through the shallow water just to embrace its fluid element, my hair often crazy and loose, being pulled by and flying in the wind. I can be glamorous if I want to, although makeup was never my thing. And I've learnt that life is for living, not fearing, and so I absorb it like a sponge. Well, good morning, Grand Rising, and hello. I'm back. I'm sorry that I've been a little bit inconsistent. If jobs come along, I sort of have to take them, and often they're on Mondays. So that's actually next week. I won't be able to do an Earthworm Woman, but maybe I'll try and do some reruns. I am back today, and I found the perfect Earthworm Woman this week. I just happened to be, not just, a video came up on Facebook, and it was a woman called Roberta, and she was talking about serendipity and how it was to do with her dog. So I'll bring her on in a second. And that's very interesting because I saw yesterday another woman, Kathy, who was talking about how she kind of was wanting or looking forward to have, hi Jan, some pink flowers yesterday, and she was going looking for them and she couldn't find them anywhere, and she was out and in the street with her son, and this little girl was looking at her and they were sort of staring at each other. And anyway, the thing of the story of that, the end of that story is the little girl came up to her and said, do you want these flowers? Because my mum said we can't have them for the animals or something like that, the dogs. And they were pink, little bunch of pink flowers. And it's like, wow, that's exactly what she had wanted. Anyway, I'm just going to bring it in, Roberta. There we go. So yeah, that was your story on Facebook. That was, I don't know, you were just talking about your dog, and then I looked into what you do. And I thought, wow, you're very interesting, especially in this era. So you have you got your name there? Can't see. Oh, you do have one. Yes. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are, and then going to...
Fantastic. Well, thank you for this opportunity to have a chin wag. And there's one thing I talk about with great passion is living and dying, and literally in equal measure. And it's been an interesting journey to see me and how I've got here. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I do whatever feels right and what sits, in my heart to serve not just myself in moving forward in this wild, crazy ride called life, but in how I can serve others as well. So I guess
living, yeah. I mean, that's right. Living is the thing you have to remind yourself all the time. Life is bloody short, and every day is about living. And
yes,
yeah, well, obviously, but you know what I mean. Living it to the fullest, living, yeah.
There's a difference between living and existing, and you know,
Yeah.
existing still has a degree of, or has every essence of living, but it doesn't mean that you're living and loving and feeling like you're mattering and making a difference in the world. And
Yeah.
that's something that is at the core of everything that I do. I really believe that people want to have, when they take their last breath, they want to feel as if they've loved and that they've lived and that they have mattered.
Yeah.
And I find these days, especially, you know, baby boomer women, and I've got many baby boomer friend ladies, but I don't see them out banging their drum and expressing the things that they want to express to see how the world could be a better place. And they've got so many
Wow.
skills, but there's all this inner voice and the
Yeah.
fear of what people might think. I think I've got to my age at 62 this year, that I actually don't give a bugger about what people think about me anymore. And I
Well,
think
that's
that's
right.
one of I think I was having a great conversation with a lady in the death industry recently, and we were discussing at the end of the conversation about what she referred to as the sage age. And I went, oh
Mhm.
God, I love that. And we are of a sage age. And I
The
think
stage age.
the sage
Yeah.
age, and it's a really important thing to embrace, because we are of an age where we have lived a number of decades and we've gone through hell and back, some of us, and
Mhm.
all of our experiences have seen us now sit here with a degree of wisdom, and we
Mhm.
need to believe that we have that wisdom and that we can actually therefore share that wisdom and be a sage. And so it's funny how I have now got people coming asking for my wise counsel with things, and I think that's
Mm.
one of the loveliest
That's
compliments that you can have as a woman, an older woman.
brilliant. And that's what this is what Earthworm Woman sort of is about as well. I mean, obviously there's younger people who watch it, and but it's about that thing of don't hold back on yourself, who you are, what you've got to give. If you feel there's something more, you know, this is life is, yeah, seize it. Life is for living. And
Yes.
like I had this thought came into my head this morning, and it's not really a great quote or anything, but it was just all about that there's only one of us. One. You know, we can never be exactly like another person, no matter how much we want to try and be like someone, or think that they're inspiring, or in a way that, oh, I wish I was more like them. We're our own person. We're an individual, and we've all got our own good, bads, creativities, whatever. We don't even know what they are. And I'm with you. I feel like at the moment I'm on a, got so much to do.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, nah, don't waste days worrying about age, worrying about looks, worrying about even if you make mistakes, it's doesn't
Yes.
matter. Yeah.
Yes. They're not mistakes, they're just lessons. And I really see it as being irresponsible, not actually banging your own drum and getting out there, because there's somebody out there, Rahana, there's somebody out there waiting for your voice and that wise counsel and that sage age wisdom that is within
Mm.
it, that could land for them and change their whole life. And
Yeah.
you see it now. If you're on sort of social media platforms, there's a lot of rubbish out there, but there's some incredible talent, and so many people who, like you and I, who have this heart that really wants to serve and make a difference in the world, and that our voice, we feel and know that our voice really does matter. I mean, look at what you're doing with this feature film that you're creating on that
Mm.
subject that's almost kind of taboo, like my business of being a funeral celebrant
There
and
we go.
death being kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
taboo.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually just on that. No, I was talking to a man in Canada who's Australian, and he is a composer because I'm looking for, you know, the music. And he said he'd like to come back to Australia, and I was like, you know, Australia's a bit of a nightmare. But he said, yeah, it's very PC still, and we're stuck in this kind of perhaps what people think of us always, and what we can say and we can't say. And yes, exactly. So death is real, and people take their lives. Trigger warning, blah blah.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
people do. And why do they so much in Australia? And this is recent. Yes, I do. What this film is going to be huge, and it's going to be worldwide. and I'm going to dedicate it to people who, well, the original guy, but people who have lost their lives or taken their lives. And so, but there has to be a way of helping with trying to reduce. And so, yeah, that's my reason for doing it. But funeral celebrant, yeah, tell me, how did you get into that then? You said you've done lots of different things.
I have done lots of different things. So I've been a professional gardener since the kids were at kindergarten, and my kids are 39 and 40 now. Wow. So a long time, and never went to Burnley and learnt the trade. I'm of Irish heritage, and my grandmother was an incredible gardener, and we spent a lot of time together. Even though she was in New South Wales, whenever we got together, it was just this passion, total biophiles. Biophile is, innately connected to nature. That's what nature, that's what people who get lost in nature are. They are a biophile. They don't feel like they're living on this planet. They feel that they are one with it. And so,
never heard of that. Wow.
Biophile, BIOPHILE. So if you get lost in nature, you're a biophile. So my granny and I were that, and she thankfully passed that down to me. And so I did the kindergartens gardens, and from there I have had a 35-year business from just word of mouth and the gardens that I've done. So I loved cottage gardens, pretty gardens, vegetables, pleached, all those sort of high maintenance, very floriferous sort of gardens. But over time, I then went in and became, a professional bra fitter and trainer for 25 years with a big party plan company called Intimo Lingerie, which is still going. And I was one of.
So I can see the connection that you want plants to bra fitting. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, as I would say, I could uplift your garden and uplift your bust line as well. So, but that was a very lovely business. But it also, and I'm just sharing this with you because it's what has really, really forged and molded me as the woman I am today. In being with people, being present and listening, and having the skills now to be a funeral celebrant. So there's this sort of passion of the parallels of gardening and the parallels of health are very, very similar. You've got to prepare and nourish and protect and feed and talk to them and love them. That's what I do to my plants, which is why everything I grow flourishes. And the same is with human health. And if you don't do that, then you're going to die. That's good, Madalena. They are great bras. And so there's just been this lovely nurturing aspect of my natural, traits to grow and nourish and nurture things. So I've done that in businesses, and I've done that for women, and I've certainly done that in gardens. And then a couple of years ago, a dear friend of mine, he died one of the best possible ways, on a train listening to some beautiful meditative Indian music, and he was 80, and he just died on the train. And yeah, bless him. And I went to his funeral, and it was a very inappropriate and just didn't match him. I thought, what kind of send-off is this? And then I went to another funeral, and it was absolutely beautiful and epitomized her. It shone the spotlight on her perfectly. The venue, every single thing about it was beautiful, and I spoke there. And I walked away from that funeral, and I said, right, the line in the sand was, I'm going to become a funeral celebrant.
Wow.
And so I did a course, and I've been very, very grateful to have a steady stream of funerals coming my way since only last September.
Gosh.
And I love it. Yeah.
And I have to say, I don't know how many people, they're always going to use, I don't know how many people use celebrants at funerals, but have you noticed that there've been more than, well, I guess you've only been doing it since last September, but in the last few years, it probably have been an awful lot more.
It is changing. So, you know, I could talk about this until the cows come home. It's such an interesting subject. And, you know, it was only sort of 80 or 90 years ago that the funeral industry actually became an industry. Prior to them, if in Australia somebody died, then the front room to the right hand of the door off the hallway was known as the parlour. And the parlour was where you would actually lay your dead there for the
Yep.
neighbours and families to come and pay their respect. And all the neighbours would come and they would mow the lawns and bring casseroles, and death was part of that cycle. The inevitability of it was sort of accepted and spoken about and anticipated. And in fact, the women of the house were like what they refer to as death doulas these days. Back then, women of that era were just death doulas. They knew what death looked like, smelt like, and sounded like, and they would nurse their loved ones right through to taking their last breath. And then they would honour them, and then the husband would go and dig a hole, and then there would be celebration and ritual, and it was also beautiful and earthy and real, and it also helped with the process of grief, because what the funeral industry sort of inadvertently have done over the time is basically taken that away from us. And then over the years, gradually, the fear and the taboo surrounding death and dying, or thanatology, which is what the study of death and dying and grief is, the thanatology, is it's just been distant. So now people don't want to talk about death and dying, and oh no, I know. And so therefore no one plans their funerals, and therefore someone like me, when I am sent by the funeral director to the family to help them bring together, just as I did yesterday, the eulogy and the service for their loved one in a chapel in a funeral home. And that's what people think that is only available to them, but there is so much more available to us today, and more people with I think more and more people wanting to see the less expensive ways of dealing with the deposition of a body, and ways that actually more reflect that person's life.
Yeah. So I would imagine, like, I mean, most funerals, I think, just go to the cemetery and there's a room there and they have a, whatever it's called.
Yeah, well, not even that so much. So there's a place called Bunurong, which is beautiful, and they've got lots of different beautiful light-filled chapels, but they have grounds as well where they have, it's the most incredible place to visit. And so you've got the people facing Mecca, you've got the Chinese near the water, you've got the Greek Orthodox in a certain area, and it's truly fascinating, beautiful, and a great place to visit. So there's nothing sort of churchy about them, and that's why funeral celebrants are sort of more so now employed, because if you are of a religion and you are part of the church, then you will have a church service with a priest, and that can be a very high kind of service, which is more about the leaving to heaven, and not so much a really great focus and spotlight on the individual, who they were, how they rocked in this world, and what they brought to the world. Whereas celebrants like me and all the others in our industry, we want to bring and shine a light on that person and who they were.
Right. Instead of making it very serene and very heavy, where people just go and grieve, actually doing the opposite, isn't it? You're actually celebrating.
We're celebrating.
I mean, of course, there's grief if someone's died suddenly and all young and everything. Of course, that's going to be there.
Yes.
Must be very different.
Sorry to interrupt, but before I lose my train of thought, the research shows that for people who actually pay some attention, for people who embrace the inevitability and the cycle of life and know that one day they're going to die, and put a little bit of preparation and thought and acceptance into it, the research shows that they actually live their life with more intention, more gratitude, and a heightened sense of joy. Because it's like, well, when it happens, and I'm going to live each and every bloody amazing day as best as I possibly can, because every day lived is one less that I have. So let's just get to it. Whereas people who, I've got a friend who is a hypnotherapist, and she says, oh, tell me about it. Fear around death is huge, and a lot of clients come to her to overcome the fear of death. And imagine living with that fear each and every day of your life.
Both my parents, my dad passed last year on May the 5th, and he was always terrified of death. And he was very spiritual when he was younger, but he was, it's like he couldn't talk about it. And my mother died before him, about 3 years before him, but you could never bring it up. Like, so how do you want to do this? We'll write it down somewhere, or, and they ended up, both of them didn't have any, we had no service for them, celebration. They didn't really have people for that, apart from the kids. And so I just always used to think how sad it was, Yeah, exactly.
But if you think about, we have these rites of passage. Our rite of passage is becoming a mother, and a baby being born is their initial rite of passage. And then there's marriage and divorce and having your first baby, maybe your bar mitzvah, divorce. There's just so many wonderful rites of passage that we experience. But the most amazing and most honourable and huge one is our final rite of passage, and that is our death, and yet it's the most unspoken one.
Yeah, that's right. And because, would you think it's because people think that it's all dark and doom?
They do, and that's often learnt behaviour as well. So it's like my granny would never talk about, death and dying. But it's actually so fulfilling and really healthy to be able to, discuss that. And what happens also is, because my beautiful Irish granny, she died at about 85. And I just wish that I'd had the wherewithal as a woman in my 30s at the time when she died, to sit and actually know more about her life, because I was aware that she was getting to the end of her life, but I was just too busy in my own world that I missed out on gathering so much and just honing in on that absolute true reality that one day she won't be here. And I adored her. I mean, I still get teary just thinking about her.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's time for us in the whole sort of bereavement part of our existence to really embrace that and realize just how beautifully nourishing it can be to our lives. I'll just close this curtain.
It's almost like, we don't know if it's another life after here. So that's that whole kind of perception that we only have this one life and that's it. We don't know.
No, or like I'm of a spiritual nature. I really believe we're, a spirit living a human existence, and when we take our last breath, then our spirit, goes on to our wonderful next chapter. And I listen to lots of podcasts and amazing hospice workers, and they are there present to see, many people take their last breath. And some of the stories, including George Harrison from the Beatles, I mean, when he died, his wife said that that she saw that his whole body just glowed after he took his last breath. It was like his spirit leaving its body. Yeah. And these hospice workers, they see this all of the time. Like they look around for where the spotlight or this light is coming that's on the person who's just passed. And there's no spotlight there. It's actually their spirit leaving their body.
The spirit can be on either side. And this is just going over there, but I saw my daughter the night before when I gave birth to her. She came in as a spirit. I swear it was like a little angel. Came into the room and just 2 seconds and went out again. I was lying there with my son. And I just knew it was an angel. I just knew it was something good. Then I went into labor the next morning, and I swear it was her coming to tell me she's coming.
Wow. Yes.
So the same way, obviously, at the other end, yeah.
Yes. So I think we've got a lot of work to do as far as being educators, and there is a tsunami of people like myself who really want to encourage people to educate themselves in that final stage of life and to prepare for it, because of pretty well all of the funerals that I have done, there's only been one. It was the one that I did some work with. Actually, I met them on Saturday, and I was writing the eulogy yesterday. That where the lady who's 90 when she died, she said, "This is the music I want played at my funeral," and a few other little things as well. So it's the only time that somebody could offer me some information that came from the person who died. Otherwise, it's picking up the pieces and trying to work out the best way. Did she want to be buried, cremated? Do you? But we just don't know. So it's really important, and it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to know that it's ticked off, and then a gift to your family as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people don't, write wills and things like that because it's feel like it's going to, that means I could die. I think that's what you're saying is exactly it. Have a complete turnaround of I remember when I was younger thinking, what's going on here, StreamYard? I remember when I was younger fearing death, when I was a child probably, and older, but I don't, I sort of feel completely, sorry, there's something going on in here. Michael's came and done something. I feel just very neutral now, and I just feel like what we were talking about at the beginning, which is just about living and seizing life and experiencing as much as you can. So Madalena, who's here, she's the same. She's very much an entrepreneur and has tried many things. And
beautiful.
Yes.
Well, death phobia and death literacy is a very big problem, and we spend so much money on gaining literacy and financial education or this or that and everything, but we don't spend a little bit of time in looking at and improving our death literacy, so that when that time comes, and we have no say in it when it happens. I'm just,
so do you find when you meet with people as a celebrant, obviously they are people who want to celebrate, they want to do.
Yes, look, they certainly want to honour their loved one and give them the best send off that they can give, but a lot of the time too, they don't know what's available to them. And through educating, I really want to let people know that there are different things that you can do in the deposition of the body. I mean, that's the problem when we live as a human being and our spirit leaves and goes on, and then we've got this bag of bones that we need to deal with. And so cremation is very much 70 to 75% of Australians now are choosing cremation versus burial. And I'm a big advocate for natural burials, and I would love to see in Australia more natural burials and sort of more ecosystem type burial grounds where you are buried. We have a lot of them in America, and they're beautiful. And instead of being buried 6 feet under, you're sort of more 3.5 to 4 feet. And when they talk about a committal and coming full circle and then committing back to the earth, like dust to dust. If you can be buried in an organic cotton or linen or silk shroud and lay your grave with flowers and of which the family can dig, and then you lay the body to rest, and then you backfill, and there's song and champagne and music and celebration and honor and ritual. It's just beautiful. But the important thing too, and me as a biophile, I want to be able to put my body back to the earth and feed the earth. And so with natural burials, that's what we do. It's a far more green way of putting and giving back in your death.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Are there? Did you say there are places like that rather
in
than
America,
just
in America, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple of places in Australia, but they're not sort of really true, beautiful forests like they are in the United States. I mean, there is natural burial ground at Bunurong, but you can sort of see a fence and a house and a big housing estate over there. So
Yeah.
you don't sort of feel that you're in the forest. So there are places in Australia. There's actually a place out in country Victoria where you can be buried like a post hole. So they dig you, and so you actually get buried vertically rather than horizontally.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I scattered my parents at Christmas. I took them up to Sydney with some of my family are up there, and that was interesting.
It's a fascinating subject, and ashes are another fascinating subject because ashes are actually very, very highly alkaline. They're almost as alkaline as bleach. They're huge. And so a lot of people say, I'm going to buy a tree and put mum under the tree. But if it's a young tree and you put all of mum's ashes under the tree, you're likely to kill the tree.
Wow. So my parents never said where they wanted. They said they wanted to be cremated, and that was it. That was it. We talked about the shroud thing, and so they never said where they wanted to be, scattered or anything like that, or together. And so we decided that we should obviously do them together, but yeah, well, we did do them amongst trees, so.
Yes, but like a slight spattering, which is why if somebody runs onto the football field with their socks with holes in it full of ashes to let Grandpa, who was an avid pies player, all over the MCG, they'll actually go and vacuum them up. They'll spy them and they'll vacuum them up because they'll actually hurt the turf. Because they're very, very, very alkaline. So there's a beautiful place called Mornington Green out on the entire road on the peninsula, and it's an old golf course. And these very visionary gentlemen have now created this beautiful forest memorial park with gorgeous trees, all being architecturally sort of designed with jacarandas and flowering gums and crab apples and gum trees, all sorts of things. And they've established these beautiful trees, and then you can pay for your trees, your ashes to be interned underneath the tree, but with a special formulation which actually makes the ashes not hurt the tree, and essentially over time the tree will take up the ashes, and your DNA becomes part of that tree and the living legacy.
Wow, that's amazing. Really. And it's incredible what you're saying about connecting, of course trees in nature have life, and some die and everything, so the fact that that's your passion, you say, it is a passion, I suppose, and I guess then people is has to be another passion for you.
Well, everything that lives dies, and so whether it's my passion for gardening or whether my passion for the death industry, they do entwine, which is why I also now love this study, this sort of a emerging subject of thanatology. So thanatology is the study of death, dying, and grief, but thanabotany is the immersion of death, dying, and grief, and how plants over many, many centuries have been used to celebrate death and dying. So for instance, there's some very beautiful old graveyards, and just FYI, a graveyard is always associated with a church. So you've got the church, and then you've got the graveyard around it. Whereas a cemetery is, in Australia anyway, they're all council owned, and there's no church associated with it. So a cemetery and a graveyard are different things.
Cemetery is very sterile, isn't it, in a way? But
yes, there's some beautiful ones. Oh my goodness, and there's some very sad and unkempt ones. And, you know, as a gardener, I go to some of those and I just want to pull all the weeds out. But there's some amazing people in the States who are going and cleaning all the headstones and doing things to make them bright and shiny and nice places to go. But this is why natural burials are so beautiful as well, because they're nice places to go. And this is what Mornington Green will be also. But yeah, thanatology, thanabotany is something I find very interesting, and there's even been times that they've exhumed bodies and they can see inside the casket certain plants that have been put in with the body because there's been, you know, some deep and significant meaning of that plant in laying that person to rest. But I was going to say, there's some places in Europe where you can be on the hill and look down at sort of a graveyard, and you'll see lots and lots of pencil pines, those beautiful, tall, thin pencil pines or junipers. And they're significant in the funeral world, in thanabotany, because they're designed to you look at, and they're designed because they're pointy and they go up to the sky to draw your eye upwards to the heavens. So that's why they plant those. And I've actually got a little list here. So, for instance, the yew, which is YEW, it's a very beautiful, dense, long-growing, ancient kind of plant, and you plant those also in cemeteries, and they're known for immortality and eternal life. So there's a plant, there's a whole sort of dictionary of the meaning of plants in general, and in the Victoriana area, it was the language of flowers. And so someone who was courting a lady in the Victoriana era, all he would have to do, because everybody knew the language of flowers, he would just go to a florist and pick his roses and lilies and pansies and daisies and maybe some greenery, and all of that actually had accumulatively a meaning, and so it would be delivered on horseback to the lady, and she could look at that and know exactly what his intentions were.
Wow. So it's interesting because people don't think of plants, which does make so much more sense in a way, because it's flowers are cut, so they're dead when you bring flowers. But bringing a life thing to be a part of someone who's buried or cremated or whatever, it's a kind of a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll find when you go to graveyards or cemeteries, you'll find often certainly roses are planted. Rosemary also, you know, rosemary is used for, you know, that let's not forget on Anzac Day, rosemary is wear a sprig of rosemary. So it's for remembrance. Yeah. And ivy, beautiful ivy, is eternal attachment, because ivy sticks to the walls, and so there's that attachment. And box borders, like Buxus sempervirens it's called, that means permanence. And of course, rose is love and reverence, and lily is purity and peace. Forget-me-nots, beautiful little forget-me-nots that are very cottage garden, and they seed every year, because that's why they're called forget-me-nots, because you can't forget them, because they come back each and every year. So there's all this meaning with the plant world in the death industry, which I just absolutely love.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, if people want to, obviously they just go to your page. If people, I mean, not no, could be planning something, or they may have someone coming up that they know is going to pass. You know, something different would be to contact you for sure.
I would love to be able to just, I guess, enlighten people about their options. So a lot of people want, you know, a lot of people find it difficult, especially in these days, to even pay for a funeral. It's not a cheap thing to die.
It's not, isn't it? It's incredible. I'm grateful that my parents didn't want anything snappy but fancy, because I can't even remember how much it was, but like to me it's a bit crazy. Like, we really did talk about the what do you call it, the cloth things, the sort of swaddle, whatever,
Proud.
because Okay, well, just talking about it, the casket was like about $2,000 or $3,000, and you just burn it.
Yes, yes. Yes, so these are the kind of things that are going on. So now you can get wicker, beautiful wicker woven coffin, and it looks beautiful. And then and the body is just, you know, shrouded or, you know, or dressed. But just little things like thinking about polyester. I mean, I heard of a body that was exhumed 20 years after it was buried, and of course the body had decomposed, but the polyester suit was still perfectly intact.
Oh, wow.
And so you need to
Wow.
be mindful about what we're doing to the skin of the earth, which is our soil, and our soil is precious to us. And every little piece of soil that we have in our garden, you know, we can have, you know, restorative acts of kindness. There's this beautiful lady in Ireland I follow. Her name is Wild Mary, and she's all about, you know, the returning, like really looking at our local ecosystems and letting things begin to run wild and get all the bees and the bugs and the butterflies and things back, because we've just made everything cut back. We rake up the leaves in autumn and not even thinking that there's a whole ecosystem living under the leaves. And so we've all got a bit anal about how things are going to look. So wild. And so I forgot where I was going there. I got sidetracked.
With the Mary, Wild
With
Mary.
Mary, yes, but there was a point I was going to make anyway. But a lot of people are looking at their options available to them now, and that's where, you know, so many educators like myself are showing people what is possible, and that is why a lot of people are choosing what they call a direct cremation. So a direct cremation is where you've employed a funeral director to come and take your body into care. And it doesn't have to be like Dad's died and we need to pick him up straight away. If you want to be with Dad for a couple of days and just be there, maybe wash him down, just embrace that special time, allow his spirit. Sometimes it can take 3 days, they say, for the spirit to actually leave the body.
Wow. Oh, that's really sad to think that like my dad left from a nursing home, to think that, you know, they put them.
Yeah, they put them in a fridge and the spirit hasn't left the body yet. So, you know, there's all this rush, and it's because of the phobia, like, oh, death, we don't want to do anything about that, rather than like, oh, my precious Dad, and being there, and whatever it is that you may do. And there are places in the world that do that. And so in
They leave
Australia,
them in a room, don't they? They leave them in a room and people come and,
people pay their respects. Yeah. And it's also part of that healing and grief process as well, to be able to look back and reflect on how it is that we dealt with Dad when he died, just like I did with my dog last November. You know, that's why I was bereft on the beach a couple of days ago. And you know, we had her laid to rest at home, and we had her overnight, and then we put her in the car and gave her a burial. We had flowers and candles, and, you know, and I look back on that and go, oh, thank goodness she wasn't just put to sleep, taken away, cremated, and came back in a box. I mean, that all just felt so cold and disconnected.
And that's right. It's the same thing, humans, pets, and just get rid of it. Get rid of the death. We don't want that.
We've loved and lived and nurtured and been with this person, and then at the end it's like, okay, take him away, rather than being there and honouring him or her in that way. So, but
what you were saying before about the you know, the plant life and the whole, you know, I can't stand seeing it when they blow all the bloody leaves away and all of that. I know it's awful, and we know that also whatever all this crap that's being sprayed in the sky, they're killing all the insects and the bees. I mean, it's been even before the last 6 years. Remember, we lived over in Templestowe area, and I used to go walking through the foresty parts. There's a swing bridge there. I don't even know what it was now. And I remember walking and thinking, there's no insects. There's no insects. So, you know, all of the things have started to erode, get rid of anyway. So
Yes, yes. So, you know, as Wild Mary says, you know, build your own ark, your act of restorative kindness. Bring back whatever turf, lawn, little patch of garden, whether you're in a unit or a home. You know, let's try and bring and help and support nature in returning those sensitive ecosystems back, because those chemtrails and, you know, that strontium, barium, aluminium, and all the rest of it that they're dumping on us, it is impacting our bees. And, you know, we really do, and our bugs. You know, once upon a time, if I went to country Victoria for a drive, my windscreen would be covered in bugs. But nowadays, there's so few of them. And it is a very, very big thing, and I'm very passionate about it. And that's one thing I will bang my drum about. I'm always talking about chemtrails and putting it out there, and my friends think I'm crazy, but I know that's real. So, yes, but
no, agree.
So I was just going to touch on just for your listeners, just in relation to funerals. There's a death. When there is a death, you don't have to spend, you know, $12,000 to $15,000, $20,000 on a funeral. You can have what's called a direct cremation. So if your loved one is happy to be cremated, then there are services out there, and it's very competitive now, where you can have you can employ a funeral director who will then, when you're ready for them to go and collect the body and take their body into their care, and then they will let you know when the body will be cremated, and then they will return those ashes to you, and that will be for a portion of the cost.
You keep talking. I have to quick 2 seconds.
Sure. And so by doing that, you receive your loved one's ashes, and then you can celebrate and have an end-of-life celebration of some kind, which I think is what most people are doing today, because then you can formulate your own kind of party, and it can be just the biggest rock and roll dance party on the beach, however it is, barbecue that you want, just to acknowledge and epitomize the person in the way that they are and the way that they lived. So their end of life kick-ass party represents their life the way that it should.
Because everybody has a story. Everybody has had, whether they've had, you know, whatever. Absolutely. Sorry about the
time.
Oh,
that's right. But also, you're not limited to a time frame. So, you know, when you have a normal, I have a funeral to do on Friday, and it'll be in a beautiful chapel, and it's for a 90-year-old lady, and it's going to be a nourishing, gorgeous time together. And but we've got an hour maximum. And then we have a cup of tea and some sandwiches after. That's kind of what people think a service is, and predominantly it is. And they're beautiful and they're done professionally. But if you don't want that kind of feel, then there are other things that you can
create
do.
Whatever,
as it's safe and legal, you can do it. Yeah.
I saw another person, I don't even know who it was, on Facebook. Obviously they'd passed, and they were showing a celebration of her life, and it was really upbeat, really live, and they were laughing, and then they were dancing on the beach, and laid this whole flower thing for her, and just she was obviously very young as well, cancer, but that was a celebration. Yes,
it is a celebration of her life, but it actually goes both ways. It's a celebration of her life and honoring her life and epitomizing it. But it's what it does for those who've come to say goodbye and pay their respects as well. Yeah. For them to walk away and go, oh, I'm so glad that I know that lady. I'm so glad, feel so proud to have known her. And again, that reflection and that beautiful memory of that is what actually aids and helps in us in our grief and bereavement as well.
There's a beautiful woman called Ege. I don't know how many people know her, who just died last month. She was just battled cancer for a long time. She's been on here. I met her briefly at the convoy to Canberra.
Yes.
Whatever it was called up there. epic. Yeah. And I don't know what's happened with her, but she had a young child and everything, and you'd have to just do as much positives around her. She was a fighter in every way. She did incredible. She was in Berlin fighting for, her cancer for a long time, and so she died, but like maybe there's a reason why she died at that age. She's only 43 or something.
Well, if you watch Peter Crone, do you know Peter Crone?
Mm-mm.
He's a delightful Englishman and deeply spiritual and a beautiful man, so sensible. And he says that we as spirit beings living this human life, our soul, it's all predetermined when we will go. Basically, we have got no say in it. So when the soul is ready to go, so what you just said about your 40-year-old friend with a young and dying of cancer, it's like, okay, he would say that was predetermined, and there was, a lot more behind all of that.
That's what. So it's the same woman I talked about in the beginning, Kathy, who knew her, said. She said her time was her time. She knew her. I don't know her very well, but she said what she'd done, come here to do on this earth. Yeah.
Yes. And so if you embrace that, and that becomes part of your belief system, then every day is such a precious thing. And what can we do? What can we do? How can we bang our drum, use our voice, share our wisdom, let our wise counsel, sage age, show up and share to the world, because someone's waiting for you to say your piece and to inspire. I really believe.
My sister-in-law does a very interesting project she's been doing for probably a couple of years or more now. It's called the Death Letter Project. Do you know that? And it's people who've either had near-death experiences or death experiences, I suppose, and also lost people. And it's just they write letters around death, and she photographs them. It's great.
Love it.
Yeah, I'll show you that. But
that sounds amazing. I will look into that. I mean, one thing because I love to write and love poetry, and I think words are amazing. And we're so disconnected from words now. We're so with our heads in our phones, and we feel like we're communicating, and yet but all of our messages are going out into a void rather than one-on-one, which is why I do love a funeral, because everybody is there. The essence of being human in all of our vulnerability and fragility is there and present. And as I say in my words of comfort, whatever comes up, just let it go and let it be, because people hold back and they don't let their emotions flow. And
absolutely. I love poetry as well. I've only in the last few years realized how much I love just writing it. I've done a tiny bit of support work in the since my dad died, and I was looking after, hanging out, we said, this 96-year-old man, and he was lovely, and I was actually with him. Well, the last time I was with him, he was in a hospice. He was in not palliative yet, but he was in what do you call it? Rehabilitation. I think it was rehab. And I just took him out into the sun that day, and he was 96, and his brain was fantastic, and he loved poetry. He always used to say, he'd just suddenly go into a poem, and that day he went into one, and I said, hang on, I'm just going to look it up. And so I started reading it to him, and he was just going, listening and listening. It was the most beautiful thing, because that was the last time I spent with him in the sun with poetry, and
life is about making moments and special memories. And so you're remembering that now. So, and if we're sitting on the phone sending messages and not communicating face to face, then they're missed moments. So, I mean, there's a very famous poem that's read at funerals, and it's called The Dash. And basically the dash is you've got your date of birth and you've got your date of death. So your DOB and your DOD. And then there's little dash in between. And on a headstone, the dash is basically all the life in between.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I have a little Facebook group, which I've got to do more with, but it's called Make the Dash Count, because we have to make the dash count. Getting together, having this lovely conversation, and whoever might see it and whoever it might inspire to get out and make their dash count and live life and each and every day. Because as I said, we got no say in it when the time is up. And then when the time is up, we've actually got a booklet, like a little booklet of some kind, and in it are all the things that Mum wanted for her funeral. And I tell you what, your family will be so grateful. They go, oh, thanks, Mum, because we didn't know what the bloody hell we were going to do with you. But we know that you want your ashes, down at Canadian Bay. And we know that you want just a beautiful hippie-like party on the beach with lots of champagne and cheese.
And speaking of the life thing, it's the young people who have to really realize that, because I know this is a very difficult time for very young people. They can't see what's ahead. They can't see a future, really. So
no, and it's these things here, and it's really about educating them and inspiring them to be to connect with being a human being rather than a human doing. And there's just too much doing and not being at the moment, and it's really worrying.
And not like you said at the beginning, not just existing or
yes.
Not existing. You said something else, I think. But actually living rather than
living. And there's just even that. There's so many things going through my mind I'd like to say, but even in the medical world, just totally pivoting here, in the medical world, doctors who are dealing with people who are dying or very ill, because of their paradigm in the allopathic world, for someone to die is seen as a failure. And when you talk to hospice nurses and the like, you can see that the body knows when it wants to die. The body goes through this amazing process, and it begins well before we die in our habits and what we're doing, and downscaling, and just getting a little bit, like, where's this coming from? Mum wants to talk about her sister that she's, held down deep forever, and now she wants to bring it up and talk about it. And this is all part of this process of getting to the end of our life, where you want to actually resolve things. You don't want to go to the grave and feel all pent up with all this shit that you've held in for long. So there's so much, and a 94-year-old might break her hip, but she's got dementia and she's got this, and the surgeon will say, well, let's operate. And really, that's like, send Mum home. Let's keep her comfortable, because she is on her last legs. Let's not try and elongate her life, because, as we mentioned before, are you living or are you existing? And so we've got so many older people today existing because of the way that the medical industry interrupt and want to keep things going alive, when let's just please do the,
Well, the medication is it. See, with my dad, for example, he had dementia, so he was really all over the place and very fearful. But they took him off the medication, and he died within a few days. That was it.
So it's about honoring life and making our dash count, and having what we call a good death, because there are so many people not having a good death. I mean, you look at James Valentine, who actually decided to end his life before his cancer really got super nasty. He was the ABC announcer in New South Wales, in Sydney, and he used the voluntary assisted dying service, VADS, and you have to be of sound mind and have 3 doctors signed it off and all witnessed and stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Interestingly, a lot of people who have VADs and have done all of what they need to do to have it in place, they don't actually go through with it. It's just this comfort thing, knowing that they've got it and that they can fall back on it
Yeah,
when that time comes. Because if you lose your marbles, you can't do VADs, because
that's right.
you can't
Yeah.
sign off on it because you're not deemed of sound
Mm.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I did know someone years ago that she used to come to the plays, and she had scleroderma or something, and she'd seen her father actually have horrendous death, and she put it in place for herself, and she did die. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. But, you know, I'm just going to touch on writing and eulogy, and, you know, with people, some of the most beautiful parts of a send-off, whether it's a celebration of life on the beach or whatever, is what is said from the heart. And a lot of people do write their own eulogy, and it's like bigger than Ben-Hur, and it's funny, and it just absolutely encapsulates all their life. They can have a bit of a dig. They can say the things that they want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to do a course with a friend about writing your own eulogy. Yeah.
No,
Great
that
fun.
makes so much sense. Otherwise, you're talking about them like we're supposed to be talking about them there, celebrating them there and then. So if you're actually hearing their voice,
yes,
it's great.
Whereas I'm writing the eulogy for a 90-year-old I've never met.
Yeah,
By having a meeting for
you
an hour and a half or two with the granddaughter and the daughter.
Yes.
So it's just something that they've entrusted to me, which is a great honor, and I do it well, and then I often read it as well, because I don't have the wherewithal to read it. It's just too much. It's sad, too teary. And so often the last funeral that I did, apart from the sister doing one poem, I actually did the whole thing, because the family just couldn't stand up and do that. So a celebrant's role is very significant. We really do hold. We're the concrete, or we're the conduit between the family and the guests and the deceased, to shine the light and do our best to honor that person and leave them with a good feeling as they leave. Yeah.
Do you think would they ever record their own eulogy?
There's been videos. Absolutely. How's that for an amazing project where you get your video out?
Yeah.
You sit there with a glass of wine, a cup of tea, and you just say, okay, this is my eulogy. And it might be that you don't die for another 20 years, and then you can update it.
Obviously, I'm not there today, but I'm here in spirit.
But you know, the first three letters of funeral is fun. So, you know, you can actually it doesn't need to be dark and heavy. It can be something more. And look, I'm not making light of things. There are some absolutely tragic, terrible instances. And doing a funeral like I am on Friday for a 90-year-old who lived to find light, and you know, and had her marbles and lived in her unit right up until the very end, is what is, you know, a good death.
Celebration. Yeah, I mean, I've only been to I think 2 or 3 maybe funerals, and one was a 5-year-old boy who drowned. So that was it was so sad. Yeah, but that.
The spirit run free. Yeah,
they coloured his box. There was so much colour in it and everything. But what can you do? But that was just awful. Yeah.
But you know, there's so much going on in the. You know, we were talking about coffins before, and there's so much going on in that world, and you can actually get psyllium coffins now. So it's a mushroom. They've got a mold, and they grow this mushroom up in between the gap of this mold, which is the coffin base, and then the top, and they just sit in a warehouse in sort of, you know, dry air, and then as soon as the deceased is put into it and into the ground, the coffin begins to break down and go back to the earth along with the body. So there's that, and then the wicker that breaks down as well. So there are many more options, and I'm really excited to see. But my dream would be to see here in country Victoria, maybe I might find a philanthropist who sees my vision and have this beautiful forest where people can have their loved ones naturally buried, and or maybe some area where it could be where the ashes could go also, but have facilities there where people could wash down the body, and also water cremation services. There's water cremation services as well now, where you go into what looks like a big, long, cylinder, and there's certain very, very gentle, and it's warm, and it's this fluid that's got certain things in it, and it's about a 7-degree tilt, and so over a number of hours the water swishes over the body and just begins to dissolve it.
Wow.
And then
yeah, that's incredible.
And there's composting as well, also human composting. So you can put the body into some materials that really aid the decomposition of the body, and the body just breaks down with the compost, and that can all go back into the soil. So there are different ways that we can deal with it outside what people know to be the funeral industry.
Yeah.
Again, it's just lack of education and death literacy. Our death literacy here in Australia, basically in the Western world, is very, very poor.
I put Tina onto you as well. So this is my sister-in-law, because you've got lots of things that people don't know about. So if anyone wants to, Roberta is on Facebook. Where else? I'm just going to put this up here because I put it there.
Yes, I'm on Facebook. Yeah, I'm not a big social. I mean, I'm creative on social media, but I don't have I don't have a particular sort of funeral group. Mosaic ceremonies. I don't have a particular group, but I'm looking to do that, and an Instagram as well, where I can put all this stuff about living and dying.
Ask me, and I can put them onto you. I just put a thing out there of all my referrals, of all my affiliates. Sorry. So sorry about that. I won't put it on the screen. If anyone wants to support any of the people who support me, that's over there. But if you want to talk to Roberta about anything, just let me know, and I'll put you onto her, or look her on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, anything from veggie gardens to flower gardens to you putting up your own daisies, as they say.
There we go. That's your name, pushing up. Thanks so much for coming on today. Yeah, it's fascinating. But I'm going to go now and do some different work as well. And I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Oh, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for a nourishing and interesting conversation, and all the best with editing and bringing your feature film to light. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thanks, everybody. I'm going to just end with my end piece.
I am not just a product made to satisfy the pocket, nor do I require the same fame others seek. I desire your heart, the passions that make you a woman, any woman, every woman. My scents are a representation of purpose, courage, confidence. Each botanical ingredient a praise of thanksgiving and self-care. The way I feel upon your flesh, a comfort of nourishment, as I feed dehydrated and depleted layers of skin, bursting for a new life of regrowth and youthfulness. If I stir your soul with each application, let it be known that you, too, are an intimate duet woman.